Hello, I'm Gail Awan, the President and CEO of the Urban League of the Upstate, and our mission is to empower the Black community and underserved individuals throughout the region. Recently, we were granted the stewardship of the historic McClaren Medical Shelter. This is a historical building that was the first clinic serving the Black community in the Upstate in Greenville during the Jim Crow segregation of 1949. Dr. McClaren was born in 1902 in one of the poorest counties of South Carolina. Raised by a father with a third-grade education, Dr. McClaren overcame tremendous obstacles to become a highly regarded physician that used his own savings to build the McClaren Medical Shelter, which served those who could not afford medical treatment and care. With me is the writer and director of a planned feature film on the life of Dr. McClaren. Edgar Michael Bravo has written and directed 7 social issue features films that are distributed in over 70 countries. Mr. Bravo, what inspired you to make a drama about Dr. McClaren?
What inspired me was his determination to follow his dreams and the determination of his family to never give up on him, to always help him even during the most difficult times of that era, the Great Depression, the Spanish flu, many horrible things that were going on at the time. When Dr. McClaren was in high school, the Spanish flu hit and it killed friends, some family, and he was horrified that no medical help came. There was few doctors and there was no cure. So this inspired him to say, I want to be a doctor. And he told his mother and father that's what he wanted to do. And as difficult as it was and expensive, they said, we will support you in your dream. He was accepted into Howard University and was doing fantastic. And then the Great Depression hit. So Dr. McClaren was, of course, ready to go home and help his family work. He'd drop out of school. But his father and mother said, no, we will do whatever we have to do, sell whatever we have to do, and we are going to help you get through the school. And his father said he would find, one way or another, he would find a way to find the money to pay for his school expenses.
So I read that he was married and with a small child at the time. I mean, that must have made staying in school like very difficult.
Yes, it was. It was, but he continued to make top grades and honors, and he graduated in 1935 at the age of 32. His friends at Howard said, stay in Washington, D.C. You can make more money as a doctor here, and you'll be much safer than you are back where you come from. His friends told him that he should stay in D.C. And we all know the terrible violence that was occurring all over the country at that time against the Black community.
And so Dr. McClaren returned and ended up working in Greenville.
He did. He found a position as a doctor at the Workmen's Benevolent Hospital, which was one of the few places the Black community could go to.
And Dr. McClaren's father, Henry, died in 1939, just before World War II.
Yes, he was heartbroken. His father was a pillar, and his father told him to never give up. And so he was very tempted again to return to Howard, as his friends were saying, but he stayed. He stayed in Greenville. Now, what happened during this time, as I mentioned earlier, there was a lot of very dangerous and difficult things that were going all over the country against the Black community. And in Greenville, in 1947, a young Black man, Willie Earl, was accused of killing a white taxi driver. And he was thrown in jail, and then a mob of taxi drivers pulled him out of jail, stabbed him, did horrible things to him, and killed him and left him out on the road outside of Greenville. And no one was convicted. Now, the reason I bring that up is because just to remind everybody how difficult it was to do what he was doing to help out his community. Well, in 1947, the Workmen's Benevolent Hospital was closed, so then the doctor lost his job. And then very soon afterwards, his mother died, which was heartbreaking again. But was interesting of his story is that now his mother and father, who was so inspirational to him, were gone. So there was nothing that was holding him back other than the love of his community. His friends, were telling him, come back.
So he was still in contact with his friends from Howard.
Oh yes, and the offer to work and do well there was still there. They were wanting him to return. He was very tempted to do so, but he saw what the need was. He remembered everything his mother and father had told him. He talked to his wife, and they agreed to use their savings to build the medical shelter, the McClaren medical shelter.
And my understanding is that African Americans from all over the area came to help?
Yes, and what happened is that so many people came, and then the need for specialists. Dr. McClaren's specialty was prenatal, but they needed people with lung specialty, gastrointestinal, all kinds of things. And there were very few. There was maybe 3 doctors in the area, in the Upstate, black doctors, and they had different specialties. So a white doctor that Dr. McClaren had worked with at the Greenville Hospital and also at the Benevolent Hospital, he reached out to that white doctor and said, you have a specialty in this, I need your help, can you come? Well, this doctor, the white doctor, was told it's better to keep to your own business. Terrible things can happen, as everyone knows can happen during those days. So that doctor was brave enough. He said, no, I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm going to help out. These are patients. Doesn't matter whether they're black, white, or whatever. So he went and helped despite the dangers to him, which inspired another doctor to come and help. That was a specialist, white doctor. Turns out that 14 white doctors ended up helping and inspired dozens of nurses of the highest quality. And so surgeries were done in this place, in the McClaren shelter. Surgeries were done, top medical care was given, and those who could not afford it did not have to pay. So he passed away. Dr. McClaren passed away in 1985 at the age of 83. But he continued working and helping out his community, and I said his specialty was prenatal care. So from the 30s he delivered babies, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. So he brought a lot of life, to the world. So I'm very happy that the Urban League is restoring the original building and is going to provide medical education, scholarships for the black community, and create a lot of inspiration that's necessary. And I'm very honored that our company will donate 10% of our profits to the fund. This film will be a loving legacy to a man and a woman, Dr. McClaren and his wife, his mother and father, who did so much good in the midst of so much difficulty, which I think is a universal issue. So I have faith that it will appeal to many, many people, even though it was set back in the 20s and 30s and 40s.
Well, we are absolutely honored to support the making of this wonderful story into a film. And certainly all donations, or as my friend Edgar says, investments in this loving legacy would be deeply appreciated.